Hey, and this is kind of like an inaugural thing we're doing here. I think we like to call it the Geek Out Book Club. I think it was Chris that termed that.
Probably.
Title. Yeah.
He is good with titles.
Yeah. Yours, and of course, I can't come up with a fucking name that sticks for my own fucking individual thing. But yeah.
If only I knew the Beatles better, I could come up one.
May your first child be a masculine child. That should be the name of the Beatles podcast. But
that's how I toasted to my brother and his wife at their wedding.
Did they get it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they did, but people, older people did.
Good. But yeah, so I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
I'm Josh.
And we're kicking it off with the first volume of Starve. If you'd been kind of listening earlier or seen it on the podcast feed, we just interviewed Brian Wood, who is the writer of this. He's also written DMZ and Northlanders for Vertigo Comics. He's written X-Men and Moon Knight for Marvel Comics. He's written Conan the Barbarian and Star Wars for Dark Horse Comics. And this isn't his first work with Image Comics, but it's his first work with them in a while. He's writing that, and he's got Danijel Žeželj on art. Danijel Žeželj had done one-shots for him. I'm going to just say that
now
name.
You're just showing off that you know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. If you listen to the interview, I maybe don't know how to pronounce it. But now I'm the fucking expert.
30 tries later.
You're the tits.
Just staring at myself in the mirror like, Žeželj. But,
putting on lipstick.
Yeah.
For no reason, just Žeželj.
You climb a mountain like in Rocky 4.
Žeželj! Cause an avalanche. But he's on art. He had previously worked with Brian, as Brian was saying in the interview. He had done fill-ins for The Massive, for DMZ, for Northlanders, and this is the first time the two of them are working together on an ongoing. We've got an advanced copy of the book, which is in stores now, on Comixology now, and this is what we think of it. Gentlemen, what do you think of it?
Well, I enjoyed it, man. I read the first issue when it came out in the stands, back when that was. But no, it's a really interesting idea for a book, and what I liked because I'm a fan of cooking shows, and
watch a lot of Food Network.
Oh, dude, Food Network on.
So this was like right up your alley.
Yeah, on like Netflix and stuff. Like, but the Netflix they don't do seasons really. They do like the collections.
Yeah.
So they just have like of good eats the collection, or blah, blah, whatever. And but yeah, the idea of this guy like writing in the town and taking his show back, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking burn this place to the ground.
Though he's kind of not, and this is the first, like within the first few pages of the first issue, so it's not a huge spoiler.
Yeah.
Because for a review, I guess let's go spoiler free.
Okay.
Or as much as possible, anyway.
Sure.
Like, let's don't say how it fucking ends. Everybody
Yeah.
dies. Just
Yeah.
kidding. It's an ongoing.
Han gets shot.
Yeah. By Greedo, back from the dead. But he's kind of forced into it, and then he makes the decision. He's like, you know what? If they're gonna force me back, I'm gonna make sure this motherfucker burns.
Yeah, contractually, he's obligated to do 8 more episodes
yeah.
If he wants that money.
That's that
which
moment.
Apparently, his wife has control over.
Yeah.
That moment in issue 1 where he makes that kind of promise to himself about he's gonna burn this place to the ground.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it's very interesting following the character Gavin Crookshank, who in our talk with Brian, and again, totally listen to that interview. It's a nice interview. I like it anyway.
I like
it. It's good.
Yeah, but
it's great to have on.
Yeah, the kind of based off Anthony Bourdain. You get because I think he makes allusions, and Josh, you were saying that to like No Reservations and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely felt like that's how he was explaining his show had begun, and then kind of evolved into something like Chopped or
Iron Chef on roids.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Kitchen Confidential.
Yeah.
Or like
not anything like Kitchen Confidential.
a billion other cooking shows that you never want to watch hungry.
Yeah. I think watching the Food Network hungry is like the worst decision in the history of like.
It's like watching porn horny.
Yeah, or going grocery shopping hungry, because then you just buy everything.
Mistake.
That is never a bad decision.
If you want to have money, it's a very bad decision.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want food.
Yeah, that's why I'm at the grocery store. I want to give away my money for food.
All right.
My big problem is if I go to shopping and I'm not hungry, then I'm just sitting there like, well, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat anything. And then I'm very bad at planning meals ahead of time. I'm very much a instant gratification kind of person when it comes to food.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm like 3 hours max for for any sort of prep. So like figuring out what I want to eat, figuring out how to cook it, and like eating it. Boom, done. I can't be like, well, tomorrow I'd like to have a grilled cheese sandwich, so let me buy cheese and bread.
Yeah. Now, Chris, Josh, do you guys watch a lot of cooking programming?
Yes.
Yes.
So this was right up your alley as well.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of I don't watch a whole lot of like the competition shows, but I do love me some Good Eats.
Oh yeah, Alton Brown.
Good Eats is the best. It might be coming back. Which
is
is
that's the
word on
rumor.
street,
Yeah. But I feel like if that's the case, out of the four of us, I probably I don't dislike cooking shows. I just don't watch a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just period, competition, travel, whatever. But even then, you don't have to be a cooking show fan to really dig this book.
Yeah, and he does such a good job of getting inside the head of Gavin. Like you mentioned in the interview, it seems like he actually knows a thing or two about cooking, and he was like, no.
Just the research.
Yeah.
Well, I also like too.
It's just a compliment to the credit of my writing.
He does this thing where he talks about celebrity chefs being looked down upon as not chefs. They're not in the kitchen as much anymore.
Yeah, like Bobby Flay.
Yeah, and that whole idea like they don't cook that much. So like there's moments in the book where he really gets in the idea of like what it is to be a chef.
He's like, I still got it. You son of a bitch.
And there's some really really great moments with that.
I cooked 30 steaks and no one knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew. Yeah.
It was good stuff.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Danijel Žeželj's art? I feel like it's very kind of like rough, like Hickman on Nightly News or Jason Latour on Southern Bastards. It's very kind of like
it's a very gruff style, and I think it works really well for this story. Especially, it's supposed to be grimy. You're supposed to feel kind of dirty reading it, and I think that having that very dark, gritty art style works really well for it, especially when he gets into the cooking, because these are things that especially in this world that's inside the comic book, people shouldn't be eating. Like the first Josh I know had a big issue with this. I mean, even I had an issue with it.
It's supposed to, yeah.
Yeah, the first thing that Gavin cooks on the show is dog, and that's fucking intense, and it looks gross.
Yeah, it's just a skinned Doberman or something, and they certainly play it to kind of repulse not just it's not just the reader, but the audience and Gavin himself.
Yeah.
Like you see how he kind of responds to that challenge accordingly.
Yeah, and it even has like the line in it. It's like, oh, he's trying to be like, oh, look, we're going to bring ourselves down to the common level and we're going to eat what the common folk eat, and the chef's challenge is to somehow find a way to make it appetizing.
It's called common meat in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for commoners.
Yeah, and then they show also the severed head on a plate as well, and it's like
a la Temple of Doom.
That just
a
happened.
monkey brains. I do like the page layouts a lot. So you'll get the moments where they're like making the food and has like the ingredients and recipe, and it'll have like the bluefin tuna, like on the side of the page, and then all the little marks.
Yeah, like it's a cookbook.
Or the more violent moments, like there's a moment involving a pig where like it's very visceral, where you're seeing it happen in the clear action of it.
Yeah, which is something I think that you also kind of see in certainly like Northlanders, but you also see those kind of like brutal layouts and even his mainstream work, a la Moon Knight.
Moon Knight, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel, as someone that's more well-versed on his I've read his X-Men stuff pretty extensively. I like Starve better than his X-Men work. How would you compare? Because he alludes to this in the interview that we just posted. There's certain constraints when you get writing corporate characters.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's now granted he doesn't say this, but there's that kind of the hint of like Moon Knight, you have a little more free reign because he's not a Spider-Man, he's not an Iron Man, you know. I did say, you know, I still believe that he is, like I said, like a gnat's fart away from like becoming the next thing. Hopefully, that's just wishful thinking. But I like Starve more because, again, with most creator-owned books, you're going to get something really interesting, you know, and you get this is such an interesting idea, you know, and it's something that it's a really fun sell too, to be like, you know, think of like a cooking show, but a guy like going in with all the, you know, this rich backstory too, with like the relationship with his daughter, I really like a lot in the book, you know, and him as a character, you know, dealing with the sins of his past coming back to haunt him as well, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Star. And I was talking to my dad when I was reading. I was like, it's really awesome to read like such a great book, and we got to interview him because it's so easy with like a book that I've enjoyed that much.
Yeah.
To talk to him.
Yeah. I think the another thing about Starve is it kind of continues a theme that exists in a lot of Brian Wood's creator-owned stuff. The idea that the scary thing about Starve, just like DMZ and certainly The Massive, is that we're kind of like, maybe not quite a gnat's fart, but we're like a stone's throw
on the precipice.
Yeah, of stuff like that happening, of like parts of New York being
yeah.
underwater, of like the 1% like hunting, or being that stratified from the common people, of food becoming so scarce.
Yeah, and the bluefin stuff. I think it's a bluefin, right? The
It
tuna.
is. Yeah.
That shows that really well.
Yeah.
But it was also great, you know, listening to the interview that we did with him. Like, he always has that bit of hope that he likes to put in there. You know, and that's nice.
Well, the end of DMZ is so surprising because, like, if you the beginning of DMZ doesn't suggest that there's any hope at all.
Yeah. And the New York thing too. You know, was definitely there. Now, granted, with his Moon Knight stuff, he was already kind of
in New York,
but he makes
the X-Men aren't.
True. But he makes it a big point in issue, like I said, issue 8, which is my favorite issue he did, where he's dealing with the new World Trade Center building, and it's very much a New York thing, you know, and very interesting.
It's hard to get any more New York than that.
Yeah.
New York groove.
Yeah, cue that.
Dump.
And get sued.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. The cool thing about Image is they tend to price their first volumes really cheap to kind of encourage new readers. This is no different. Definitely check it out. It gets our seal of approval. You don't have to be a big cooking fan to dig Starve. It certainly helps.
Yeah. I mean, like we all love the cooking shows, but I can't cook to save my life. You know what I mean? It's just it's that kind of hooked me a little bit, being like, oh, what is this?
I'm kind of like Chris in that there's too much work.
Yeah, but with the writing style, it's that nice attention to detail that really hooks you in.
Yep.
Well, yeah, like I watch the cooking shows of like common people who are aspiring to be chefs. So you think, I might actually be able to do this recipe.
As a quick sign-off, what is everybody's favorite cooking show and or chef?
I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier with both basically the same thing. Good Eats for the show and Alton Brown for the chef. Because I love the way that he like explains like the science behind what's going on.
It's fascinating.
It's not just, oh, we're going to cook, we're going to throw this sauce in here and we're going to cook this meat, blah, blah. It's actually like, okay, so when you bring this meat up to this temperature, the chemicals in here are actually activating, and that's what turns it brown, blah, 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 like that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you understand why you use like, this kind of flour versus that kind of flour because it, has this kind of reaction while it's cooking. So, here's to you, Alton.
I mean, I love Alton Brown too and Good Eats, but I like Chopped a lot because best friend Josh over here was saying,
imaginary friend
Josh. Damn it, you're still my best friend though too. Yeah,
that hurts, Jake. That hurts.
Well, I'm sorry. Fuck you. No, but seriously, Chopped is great because like Josh was saying, like kind of you just get amateur chefs mostly, not all the time, with these crazy food items, So again, it's starved light in the fact that it's not like going out of its way to like do crazy things, but there's cool themes in like 30 minutes. They come up with these crazy, awesome things. It's a really enjoyable show, and I love all the judges too. Also, Cutthroat Kitchen is pretty entertaining.
Really?
Dalton Brown.
For me, some of the I know somebody that was on Cutthroat Kitchen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She loses in the first round, but the judges for me on like every cooking show are usually the worst part.
Oh yeah.
Because they're like so up their own ass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again,
And Starve
does
goes
a
out of
great
its
point.
way to
Oh
point that
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like good friend Jake here said.
Oh,
I said
just
best
good
friend,
No,
motherfucker.
just good. It's because he loves me more, Jake.
It's fine.
Kind of true.
It's fine.
But, again,
Yeah, that's Chewy over
with
there.
everything Jake mentioned about Chopped, the great thing about those judges is they call each other out on bullshit.
Sure.
Like, they may be up their own asses, but they're willing to go up the other judge's ass.
Also on Chopped, they
It's
don't
the kind of cooking show I want to watch.
They don't go out of their way to be mean just to be mean. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's very much a
Mean?
building. They're very much to be
And
building each other up.
Yeah, the challenges they give are always exciting.
Yeah, and Ted is awesome. I love Ted.
That's kind of one of the nice things about Gordon Ramsay's kids cooking.
Oh, yeah.
thing.
I like
because
Gordon
like
Ramsay.
you see Gordon Ramsay on all these shows, and all he's doing is yelling and swearing and stuff like that, and then like you hear that he has a kids show where it's like kids cooking, and you're like, no, why would you do that to a child?
Yeah.
And then like he's like the sweetest guy. He's he's sitting there, he's helping them, he's like testing the food, and he's like, okay, well maybe we need a little salt in this. And someone explained it to me. He was like, well, yeah, on those other shows with the adults, these people are claiming that they're professionals,
Sure.
and they're making amateur mistakes.
And it's like the drill sergeant thing, which is ridiculous to equate to cooking, but like he wants to put the pressure on.
And he's had a moment on one of his kids' shows also where he's explaining to one of the contestants that like brings up their meal. It's like he's explaining of when he's talking about his own son that has cooked for him, and he almost has an real breakdown moment
I
of
saw that
explaining
clip.
it.
I saw
to
that
this
clip.
kid.
It almost brought tears to my eyes.
And it's like he's trying to encourage them to be, excited about this passion that they obviously have.
Do you have a chef that
Yes.
you really?
Yes. Same as Chris's, Alton Brown.
I think it's a clean sweep for Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
I like how he brings kind of the science to cooking. Like, make sure you have the biggest possible pot because pasta expands when you cook it and stuff like that.
He's the Neil deGrasse Tyson of cooking.
Yeah, it's just not as smug. Thank God.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
he's the Michio Kaku of cooking.
Yes.
My favorite, I do when it comes to cooking shows, do tend to prefer the competition-based shows. I'm Iron Chef all the way, either America or Prime Iron Chef. I love the commissioner on Iron Chef America, who was one of the who played Billy in the Double Dragon movie.
Yeah.
He's also the Crow in the
Yeah.
TV series.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah, God, it is.
but yeah, totally. Check out Starve. It's a great read. Doesn't break the bank.
Artwork's fantastic.
Artwork's fantastic. Žeželj.
Žeželj.
With the one
screwed up.
gentlemen, once with feeling.
Okay.
1, a 2, a 3. Žeželj.
Yeah, don't ever change your last name.
Yeah,
please.
yeah. No. This all comes from love. Keep reading, guys.